Level 1. The Anomaly. You are 100 years old. You should be dead. Your friends are dead. Your wife is dead. Your children are dead. You stand at the edge of your youngest son's grave. He lived a full life. He died an old man, gray and withered. You look down at your own hands. There are no wrinkles, no liver spots. Your joints don't ache. You still look exactly the way you did when you were 30. You don't cry at the funeral. You stopped crying decades ago. Human grief is built on the assumption that you will eventually follow the dead into the dark. You won't. You know that now. The village doesn't celebrate your centennial. They whisper. The priest crosses himself when you walk past the chapel. The children point. You aren't a miracle to them. You are a mistake, a glitch in the natural order. Your bags go into a cart. You leave in the middle of the night. Nobody stops you. Standing on the edge of the town line, looking back at the only home you've ever known, that decision already feels like it belongs to someone else. Level 2. The Outcast. You're 150. You change your name. You move to a new city. You learn a new trade. You are a blacksmith, then a carpenter, then a merchant. Your days belong entirely to someone else's schedule. You develop a skill here that nobody formally teaches, managing your own visibility. You stay invisible when the local leadership is in a bad mood. You give the townspeople just enough information to feel they know you, while quietly making sure the details that actually matter stay hidden. It isn't deception, it's survival protecting itself from superstition. You stay in a city for exactly 20 years. That's the limit. Any longer and people notice you aren't aging. At year 19, you pack your tools. You fake a drowning in the local river or a disappearance in the woods. You walk away clean. You mentor a young apprentice named Thomas, 19 years old, fast learner, never complains. One evening he asks you directly if the heavy labor gets easier. You think about the lifetimes of lifting timber and shaping iron. You think about the blisters that heal perfectly by morning. No, you tell him, but you get stronger. That's better than easier. He nods slowly, like he's storing it somewhere he won't forget. You leave 2 months later. You never see him again. Level 3. The Seeker.
You're 1300. The Black Death sweeps through Europe. The sickness is a physical presence, something like a hand pressing flat against the continent's throat from sunrise to sundown, never letting up. Your assignment is corpse detail, not because you volunteered, because you were the only one left standing in your district. You walk the roads ahead of the carts. You move slowly, methodically, without rushing, because rushing is how people normally die. But you don't die. You hold the dying. You breathe the infected air. You sleep in beds soaked with sweat and blood. You wait for the fever. You welcome it. You want the heat to spread inside you. You want the resume of suffering that everyone else is handed so freely. You wake up every morning, perfectly healthy. You seek out scholars, priests, alchemists. You sit in dim rooms with brilliant men. They draw your blood. They consult ancient texts. They look at you with envy. They don't understand. A doctor named Eris tells you, without looking up from his scrolls, that the heavens have blessed you. You don't argue, but you already understand something he doesn't. A room with no door isn't a sanctuary, it's a cage. The universe doesn't reward clever, it rewards present and ready, and you are always present. Level 4. The Soldier. You're 1600. If disease won't take you, iron will. You actively seek out the front lines. You join infantries, cavalries, mercenary bands. You wear different uniforms, carry different flags, fight for different kings. The days settle into a grinding sameness. Dust, heat, steel, the long mechanical rhythm of a siege that ends the same way it started, in the mud. One afternoon, your unit is ambushed in a dense forest. A spear catches you under the ribs. The metal tears through your lung. You feel the slow, heavy warmth spreading inside your tunic. You fall. The medic finds you hours later. He leaves you for dead. You wake up at 2 a.m. in a cart piled with bodies. The wound is already closing, the tissue knitting itself together with violent efficiency. You pull yourself out from under the cold limbs of men you shared rations with yesterday. You walk away from the camp. You don't tell anyone. There's a real difference between being fearless and being immortal. But out here on the battlefield, that difference has consequences that don't come with second chances for the men beside you. You start seeing differently after that. You stop looking at wars as history. You start reading them as a meat grinder.
Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what era you would travel to if you had endless time. Hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We upload every single day.
Level 5, the architect. You're 1000. You stop fighting, you start hoarding, not money, influence. You advise empires now. You sit in briefings where decisions affect hundreds of thousands of people and are made in under 10 minutes. Kings and emperors look to you because you carry a language they were never fully taught, the language of someone who has lived every level of human ambition from the bottom up. A young emperor, 23 years old, freshly crowned, is extremely confident about a naval invasion he has never actually led. You recognize the look. You wore it 7 centuries ago. You give him just enough information to feel in control while quietly making sure the decisions that actually matter don't burn the continent to the ground. You are the filter and the foundation at the same time. You watch how blame travels through a large organization when something goes wrong. You watch how victory is claimed by leaders who perform for history and vanish for their subordinates. Burnout dressed up as high standards. You sit in a war room and realize something terrifying. Humanity is a loop. The weapons get sharper, the ships get faster, but the greed is exactly the same. You are the institutional memory of the entire human race, and the memory is exhausting. Level 6, the prisoner. You're 1500. You have reached your limit, you want out. The desire to end it isn't an emotional breakdown, it is a logical, cold calculation. You are tired in the bone. You step off a cliff in the highlands, a 300-foot drop. The impact shatters every bone in your legs, snaps your spine, crushes your skull. You lie at the bottom of the ravine. The pain is absolute. It is a blinding white light. You wake up 3 days later. The bones have snapped back into place. Your skull is whole. You walk into the ocean with iron weights chained to your waist. You sink into the black water. Your lungs burn, scream, and then fill with freezing salt water. You die. You know you die. You wake up on the shoreline a week later, coughing up sand, perfectly intact. You sit on the beach for a full day. You don't move. You realize the ultimate horror of your condition. Finishing when it hurts is the only resume that matters in life, but you are not allowed to finish. The universe will not accept your resignation.
Level 7, the ghost. You're 2000. The modern era. The world is loud and bright and completely indifferent to everything you have seen. You fly through Nashton International Airport. The terminal is packed. A woman near baggage claim is arguing loudly on her smartphone about a restaurant reservation. She is furious. Her face is red. This minor inconvenience is the worst thing to happen to her today. You stand still for a long moment and just watch her. You think about the plague pits in Europe. You think about the spear in the forest. You think about the bottom of the ocean. The world kept moving. You just aren't in it anymore. You speak for nearly 1 million dead memories. You travel constantly. London, Tokyo, New York, Johannesburg. You walk into coffee shops and subways unannounced. You eat the same food. You sit across from people who don't know who you are. You listen the way someone listens when they have no reason to pretend. You are entirely detached. The cost of endless life isn't outliving your loved ones, it's outliving your own capacity to care. Level 8, the observer. You're 2500. There is one of you, one immortal at any given time. You don't build wealth anymore. You don't try to guide nations. You live in a small, unremarkable apartment in a gray, rainy city. You work a quiet job sorting archives in a basement library. One evening, a young intern named Davis finds you after hours. He isn't struggling with the work. He's struggling with something heavier than that. He's 22. The weight of the world is crushing him. The economy, the politics, the lack of meaning. He sits with you for a full hour. You don't fix it. You can't. You just sit there. He asks you directly if it's worth it, the struggle, the pain, the long years, whether any of it actually means something when it's over. You look at him for a moment without answering. You think about the wood crushing your chest when you were 28. You think about Thomas the apprentice. You think about the young emperor. You think about the heavy iron chains pulling you into the dark water. You think about every name you brought home that never made the history books. It means exactly as much as you decide it means, you tell him. Not 1 ounce more and not 1 ounce less. He nods. He packs his bag. He walks out of the library. You stay in the basement. The universe doesn't make you who you are. It gives you enough pressure, enough loss, enough purpose, and enough time to figure it out yourself. Most people get 80 years to find the answer. You get forever. And that is the one thing you can never escape. You have to endure it,
1 century at a time.